Okay.
Okay.
I want to hear about your first kiss with your
My
husband.
first kiss. Well, I met Paul in '46, and I was a junior, and then we kind of started going together, and went all through my senior year. And Mom and Dad had a little store over the road from where we lived, and this was at nighttime, not too late. But anyhow, we were kind of parked over there, and he gave me a kiss. I felt it clear to my toes. It just, oh, it was so amazing. And I just opened the door and jumped out and ran home.
It's probably your first and only kiss
No, it wasn't.
up until that time.
No, it wasn't. But I just knew that he was the one, and the kiss just, oh, it was amazing. And you know, I can't remember if we ever talked about it or if he said, "Why did you do that?" I just, that's all gone. I do not remember. But I went with him all through, my senior year, and then graduated in May, and we went together all summer, and we got married October the 2nd, 1947.
But you weren't allowed to go with him to the senior prom.
This because of the school. The school did not allow anybody that didn't go to the school. It was all school people that had to go. So my brother Paul took me, and we didn't dance. I danced with girlfriends, but we didn't dance. But just to go to the prom, to say that I went to the prom. But no, Paul wasn't allowed to take me to the prom.
Now, your first child was Terry.
And Terry was my first child, and I turned 20 February the 20th, and he was born March the 20th. And so then, and then he just, it was, and then Carol was born 18 months later.
Well, let's get back to Terry again.
Terry, okay.
Just do these one at a time. Terry then graduated here from high school in, Austintown?
Oh, yes. Yeah, my kids all graduated from
And then
Austintown.
he married...
He married Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Yeah.
And they had two children.
They had two children, Dara, and Dara was my second grandchild, and then Tim, and Tim right now is 24.
And where is Tim now?
Tim's right now in Hollywood, California.
And he's still single.
He's still single.
Dara, however.
And Dara got married. It'll be 2 years on a year. I'm sorry, Valentine's Day. And she married. And Dara, when Dara was born, she was missing a half a chromosome, and so her mother was very protective of her, and. So when this gentleman met her, and he worked with a friend of Dara's, and he had told them that he wanted to meet somebody, and they introduced him to Dara, and it was just it was gone.
Love at first sight?
Yeah, it was. And
now Dara's mother has never gotten remarried.
Oh, yes.
Oh, she has?
Oh, yes. She's married to a gentleman called Tom.
No more children, though?
No. And then, well, Tim and Dara, I mean, I don't know how many years apart they are, but Terry divorced Cheryl, and Tim was only 2 years old when that
So
happened.
then he married Janet. Where did he meet Janet?
He had said one day we were talking, and in a bar up on South Raccoon.
Okay.
In there, and he met her, and I don't know what year they were married. I have that stuff written down, but I off the top of my head, I can't think of when they were.
Yeah, a few years ago, then
married.
they left here and came down to Florida, and spent a few weeks with me while they got their real estate license in Melbourne.
Yes.
And then they transferred. Well, they actually signed up with a broker over in not Tampa, is it? Western Florida.
Yeah.
So that's where they are right now.
That's where they still are. Yes.
Now your second child was
Carol.
Carol.
And like I said, she was born 18 months after Terry was born.
And then she graduated from here, and she married
She
Larry.
graduated from Austintown Fitch. All my children graduated from here. Okay. And in fact, she met Larry at the Canfield Fairgrounds.
Where at Canfield?
Canfield Fairgrounds in
That
September.
That had to do some doing.
And,
meet somebody at the fairgrounds?
Well, you know how the girls all get together in groups and the guys, and that's where she met him. And I'll never forget, and it was over in Brookfield, and Brookfield is quite a little ways from here. Not, I don't know in mile-wise, but he would come over, and I don't remember if he had a ride over, but he was going to walk home one night. And Carol asked me, she said, "Mom, would you take Larry home?" And I said, "Well, I suppose, you know, back in those days I was crankier than I am now." And anyway, I only took him part way, and he got out and walked the rest. And when I had seen then and he never said a word, and when I had seen then how far later he had to walk home, I was so ashamed of myself. I couldn't believe I'd done that. Made him walk to clear back to his house that time, you know. And Angie, then they got married, and Angie was my first grandchild, our first grandchild. And when Carol told me she was pregnant, I said, "Oh, I'm too young to be a grandmother. I don't want to be a grandmother." And but anyway, she was a beautiful child and still is. And she's a school teacher, and she married a school teacher. But she was our second grandchild.
Where are they now?
They're up in on this side of Akron.
And what's her husband's name?
And her husband's, and he's a school teacher. His name is Mick. Well, his real name is Mickey, but we all call him Mick. Okay. And they have two children, a little girl, Mallory, and a little boy.
The 3-year-old who talks to worms?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a little boy that will be a year old in March 24th. He'll be a year old.
And she has another girl?
No, just a little boy, a little girl.
No, Carol. Okay.
Oh, Carol, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, she has then Stacy, and Stacy is 33, 34, and she's got a little girl that just turned 13. And it's just a beautiful, tall little girl named Larissa Pierce. Her middle name is no, her last name is Pierce, but I'm sorry, because Stacy wasn't married at the time, so that's her maiden name, Pierce, you know. And and she only has the one child, you know. So Carol has she only had 2 daughters, and then she has 3 grandchildren. And then Chris came along 8 years later, and I'm probably mistaken. I think it's 5 years later.
Okay.
And Chris married, his wife's name is Deborah, and he met her when they were both working up above me here at Kmart's. And so I hate to say this on video, but she got pregnant, and that's why they got married, you know.
Good reason as any.
And they have 3 children, and Amy, and Brad, and then Jamie, and so they had 2 girls and 1 boy, and Amy is married to Tom Moody, and they have 3 children, and
so Chris is a grandfather too.
Oh yes, he's a grandfather.
Right.
Yeah, and then their son Brad is getting married in August. Is coming up in August at 12th, and his wife's name is Sharon, or will be. His wife will be Sharon. I mean, they've been living together for a little while. And then Jamie and Mark. Jamie's the youngest, and Jamie and Mark, they don't have any children, and so he has, you know. And then he's got a couple step children too.
From his wife?
Yeah, she had 1 child, and then the gentleman she married had a son, Tommy, TJ, you know, so. And, their daughter is, she's 14. Their first child she's 14. And then it comes down to 5 years later, Matt. And I carried Matt for 10 months. He didn't want to come into the world.
One of them says, "Don't look at me." The other one says, "I ain't coming out."
And
Must have been the wintertime.
so he was born in March also, and so he's been married 3 times.
Matt has been?
Matt's been married 3 times. His first wife's name was this is old age coming on. I can't think of her first name. That's awful. I'm sorry. Hate this.
I call it CRS. Can't remember shit.
And anyway, they had a son, Jess, and they got divorced when Jess was about 2 years old. And Jess right now, he turned 21 last September. And anyway, he married another girl, and she had been married before, and they had a child, but they didn't have any children together, and their marriage didn't last very long. And so they got divorced. In fact, she passed away about a year ago. She had a disease, which he didn't even know about, and she had it at the time. And then he married Cindy, and they have a little girl, Autumn, and Autumn right now is 8 years old, and she's she's autistic, but
really?
very smart little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then Matt moved to Georgia about 4 or 5 years ago, and I hated to see him go, but it was the best thing in the world for him job-wise. It was very good. And then Penny came along, and 3 years later, and I'll never forget the day she was born, because it was she was also born in March. All 3 of those kids were born in March. One the 20th, one the 21st, and one St. Patty's Day. Penny was born on St. Patty's Day. And the weather was kind of bad, and it was so I said we were going to the hospital, and the roads were bad, and Paul was going to stop at a stop sign. I said, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. So we got to the hospital, and he went down to the office to enlist, put my name in, whatever. And I went up, they took me right away upstairs, and by the time he had signed in, he came upstairs, Penny was already here.
Oh, hi, Dad.
She was already there. And I always said if I'd ever had another child, which thank goodness I didn't, I would have probably never made it to the hospital in time.
All right, Penny was born on St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day, March 17th.
Same as Rochelle.
Yeah.
And who was born on Valentine's Day?
None of my children were born on Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay.
Terry's was the 20th, and Matt's was the 21st.